We move now into our time of honoring Steve Bell, but he's got to do a little work for us today. Steve is a cherished singer-songwriter, a vibrant and visionary community leader, a person of deep faith and friendship. And so it is my honor to invite Steve to the stage to offer a few songs, followed by an interview with Christine Longhurst.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I've taken courses here. I've taught things here. I have friends here. I have family here. It's really significant for me. Thank you. Okay. A couple songs. Love is our way to God. For God is love. Love is our way to God, for God is love. The wilderness road of shame is gone. The desert road of dislocation gone. The stony road of loneliness has now royal way, a highway home. Love is our way to God, for God is love. Love is our way to God, for God is love. And all who carry disappointment come, and you who fear the fire of judgment, come. And those who teach this royal way is not for some. Shame on you. Now lovers come. Love is our way to God, for God is love. Love is our way to God, for God is love. Love is patient, love is kind. Love pays ill, no, never mind. Love refines the finest gold, the charity of saintly souls. The only thing left for us to do is love. If this alone be done, it is enough. And as we love the other, God abides in us. God unseen, but seen in love. Love is our way to God, for God is love. Love is our way to God, for God is love. Love is our way to God, for God is love. Thank you. Okay, I'll do one more for you here. This is I can't see anything. It's quite a blinding light. I could see my dad's bald spot right on top that's shining off. There's kind of a glare happening, but my father's here, which I'm very, very pleased about. So, so I thought when I was trying to think of what I should sing tonight, I thought pretty quick I should do this one. It's one of the first songs I ever wrote that sort of launched the work I do now. And it was about 30 years ago-ish. And I had just come out of about 10 years of playing in the nightclubs and didn't really know what to do with my life and had no skills that could get me a paying job. And it was in a bit of a panic, and my wife and I were married. We had children already, and And I knew I had to kind of find something to do, and I had no vision of this whatsoever. It didn't even occur to me that I was going to be doing this for the rest of my life. And I thought I was kind of hanging up my guitars, actually, and I was praying to God for work, actually, just for something simple as work, but I was kind of hoping it could be meaningful as well. And so there's this kind of agony, and I found a prayer in Psalm 90 that asks for work, for meaningful things to do with our hands. And so I turned the psalm into a prayer that was for me to pray, and I wrote the song, not realizing that the song was the answer to the prayer. That the prayer was the answer to the prayer in the sense, but it became the first song on my first album. So I'll sing it for you.
Satisfy us in the morning with your love. Satisfy us in the morning with your love, that we may sing for joy and be glad in all our days. Satisfy us in the morning with your love. Match the days, Lord, of our sorrow with your joy. Match the days, Lord, of our sorrow with your joy. And may your deeds be always known to the ones you call your own. Match the days, Lord, of our sorrow with your joy. And may the favor of the Lord rest upon us and our land, and establish for us all the work of our hands. Yes, the work of our hands. Lord, for us you have been our refuge from age to age. Lord, for us you have been a refuge from age to age. Before the mountains were formed and the earth and the world brought forth, you are the everlasting Lord. May the favor of the Lord rest upon us and our land, and establish for us all the work of our hands. And may the favor of the Lord rest upon us and our land, and establish for us all the work of our hands. Yes, the work of our hands.
Thank you. Thank you.
My chair has a back on it. You notice
Yeah,
that,
I
right?
could fall off.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, you can't see anything.
We can pretend they're not out there. Thank you for those. I'm good.
Can't see it.
It's a real pleasure to have you here with us
Thank you.
and to be able to see you receive this award. From where I sit, I think you really deserve it. You're among friends here. I hope you can feel that. I think many of us have, we've lived our lives alongside yours. We've been to your concerts, we've bought your albums, we've sung your songs in worship, we've attended workshops and conferences that you've led. We've read your writing on Pilgrim Year. And over the years, we've watched you continue to grow and develop as a singer, songwriter, artist, performer, as a storyteller extraordinaire, as an author, as a theologian, I will be so bold to say. And so I think we can say we're really proud to know you, Steve, and we support you in your work.
Thank you.
Now, questions.
Okay.
This feels a little bit like an exam, doesn't it? I think you can't answer wrong. I think no matter what you say, they'll probably give you the award anyway, so
Okay, good.
we're okay. Just a guess. Okay, so one of the ongoing conversations we've been having here over the last few years at CMU has to do with the whole idea of vocation, what it is. How is vocation different than a job, different than a career? How can we help our own students here find their own vocation, their own passion, their own calling? I'm wondering if you have something to say on that subject, whether that's always been clear for you, whether your calling was just out there and you just followed it, or whether you kind of stumbled into it along the way.
Mine has been almost stumbling all the way. I mean, not that there hasn't been strategy and thought put into it, but I mean, I got out of high school. I didn't know. I had no idea what to do for a living. I wanted to do music, but it didn't seem that was a possibility. Like economically, and I'm a folkie from Winnipeg. How's that going to work?
Yeah.
And I ended up starting to play in nightclubs in the late '70s. Mostly just to kill time, just to figure out, just to do something until I figured out what I was here for.
Yeah.
Played for about a decade in the nightclubs, and there was really good things about that, but it kind of wore thin after a while. And like I said, a bit earlier, that there came a point after about 10 years where I kind of knew I was done. Nance and I had kids, and this wasn't working financially, and the amount of time I was home, gone 6 nights a week often, and it's just not a good. It's not a good environment to be in all the time, and it didn't feel that it was moving anywhere. And I felt like I needed to give it up. I just sort of felt like that time of my life was over, but I didn't have any vision of this whatsoever. And then, so I quit and started looking for work, and of course I'm unemployable, and so. But my wife is, thankfully, and she's a teacher, and she was able to go back. She had taken some time off from work with her kids when they were early, and she was ready to go back. So I kind of stayed home and was really depressed for a while. And then an old family friend, Father Bob McDougall, Catholic priest who pastored at Stony Mountain Prison as a colleague with my dad when my dad was there, phoned me up and he said, "You should do a gospel album." And I said, "What? I don't think so." And he said, "I think you should." And I said, "No, I don't do that. That's not what I do. I'm a failed bar musician." And he said, "I think you should." And I said, "Well, how would I pay for that?" I said, "Where would I get music?" And he said, "Surely you can write something or find some songs." I said, "I guess." And then I says, where would I get the money for something like that? And he said, "How much would it cost?" And I kind of pulled a number out of my head. I think I said $10,000 or something. And he pulled out his checkbook, and the Vatican paid for my first album. It was seriously, it was like, just cut me the check right there. So I did it, and we just put out a cassette, and I made enough for family and friends, but it started to make rounds, and I started getting calls to sing, and I kept on saying no to invitations to sing. I don't do this. I'm not a minister. I don't do that. But what ended up coming is these calls over and over and over, till finally the magic words, a fellow said, "I'll pay you." and I went and I sang at a church in southern Manitoba, and I was so nervous because I wasn't used to playing for listening crowds, and I had nothing to say, really. I just had a few of my little songs from the first album, but I felt, I'm going to cry. I felt overwhelmed by God that night. I felt overpowered or overtaken. And I knew that was what I do now. And that's what I've done since. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well. Thank you. Question number 2.
Okay.
One of the things that many of us admire about you is the way in which you have used your voice as an artist to draw attention to the causes and the issues that you care about. And I think of all the extensive traveling you have done overseas, India, Indonesia, Guatemala, Palestine, on and on. I think of the work you've done with Canadian Food Grains Bank and World Vision and Compassion Canada. I also think of the time that you spent putting together the Solace for Seasons of Suffering album, and I could go on. And so my question is, What connection do you see between your work as an artist and your involvement in these kinds of causes and issues? Does being an artist give you a different perspective? Does it give you different motivation? Does it give you different responsibilities? Anything about that?
Well, that's kind of hard to. I don't think it doesn't have to. I think there's lots of people that just make music because they like to make music and they don't get involved in causes and all that kind of stuff. But I was at a well, for one, I think I was sensitized to lives of others through my parents' life. My mother has suffered her whole life with mental illness, and so there. And so my proximity to suffering was quite close, but it was a loving proximity. My mom loved us kids dearly, and so her suffering was one that we witnessed with love. And so I think that opened all of our kids' hearts in a way that might not have happened otherwise. Dad was a prison chaplain, and so we were often in environments with people whose lives were extremely broken. But again, it was close. It was, and they were our friends. It was inmates that taught me to play guitar at Stony Mountain Prison when I was a kid. So it was proximity, but it was with love, and so I'm predisposed. But I think Ron Rolheiser, I heard a lecture of him a couple years ago at a conference on Henry Nouwen, and he talked about the soul of the artist, and he said that the artist's soul is porous, and that we don't have the same we don't necessarily have the same ability to block suffering of the world that other people do. That doesn't mean other people can't be compassionate or empathetic, but there seems to be something about the artist's soul that's open, and you're vulnerable, and so you feel things in a way that can be quite overwhelming, which is why so many artists medicate. And it's interesting what he said, though. He says it's a gift, but if you don't disciple it, it'll kill you. Was an interesting thing to say. He said you have to disciple that gift because it'll become a curse and it'll kill you, but you've got it, so deal with it. And that really struck me that that's somewhat true. Yeah.
That's fascinating. Now, you've not only used your voice as an artist, but you have also put yourself out there as a person. You've put your reputation out there to speak out, to call for action on issues. You know, I can name you any number of them that you've gotten involved with. The whole BC Bill C-262, March for Indigenous Rights, working with the people of Shoal Lake 40 and Freedom Road. I also know that you've served on the boards of a national and a local group working with poverty and homelessness and so much more. And so maybe say a little about what prompts your personal involvement in some of these causes. What motivates you then to take a stand publicly?
I think some of it is a way of discipling that porousness. Like, what do you do, right?
Yeah.
You can't just you can't pretend you don't feel what you feel. I think I'm not an activist. Like, I don't think of myself that way. I'm a songwriter.
Yeah.
That's how I think about myself. But you do see things, and you run across friends that are involved in things. Suffering is in our family. I can't divorce myself from it. So at some point, you just got to say, how can you use the gifts you've been given in a way that could bring attention to, in a loving and a good and healthy way, to these issues? Yeah. So that I think that kind of is what drives me a little bit. I had a thought and it just slipped my mind here. I guess it wasn't very good.
No, you're just getting old. It happens.
Oh my goodness, is that true, eh? Oh wow. So it's like for me to, there's a very specific thought I wanted to get to. Not active, but, it's gone. I think it's gone.
It'll come back.
Yeah.
Okay, so can I ask you, many of the causes that you've chosen to support relate to issues that are important to our Indigenous communities. And I also think of the title track on your recent album, Where the Good Way Lies, too, which is inspired by Indigenous imagery and other things. So what draws you? What what connects you to some of these issues in particular? Do you want to say anything about that?
You know, when I was a young boy, Dad was pastoring as a chaplain at Drumheller Prison, and it was in outside of Calgary in Drumheller, and I used to go in every week with him. All of us kids did, and we sang, and we were part of the whole thing, and that was our church, and that was our fellowship, and we loved the guys, and the guys loved us. Coincidentally, my mom, who was ill, who had, you know, she suffered her whole life, well, off periodically from anxiety and depression and things. When we were in a regular church, the church didn't have a really great catcher's mitt for that kind of an illness, especially from a pastor's family. Yeah. But the inmates had no problem with us being broken. Like there was a sort of an easy welcome, like come hang with us, you know, like we're your people, you know. So it was we kind of got drawn in, and it was inmates that taught me to play guitar. It was it was our life. But at 8 years old, I remember talking to my dad one time, and I said to him, "Is there something wrong with Indians?" And I remember him looking at me saying, "Why would you ask that question?" And I had already noticed that demographically there was a disconnect. Yeah. With what I saw in prison and what I saw in the street. I wouldn't have had language for that, but something was wrong, and I needed to know if there's something wrong with my friends. And I remember Dad at the time just saying, that's the kind of question you need to keep asking for the rest of your life. And that sort of inspired that. But I think also there's something intuitively in me that believes that Christianity has become so unmoored that we're so far away from our roots, our indigeneity, and that I'm hoping and praying that somehow the resilience of First Nations people at this point can be part of our healing and our return to our home, in a sense. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. Yeah. Thanks. I think I have time for one more, or maybe two, depending how much you talk. Okay, so when you look back at the last maybe 25, 30 years, is there anything in particular that gives you the greatest satisfaction, the greatest joy? Is that a hard question?
Well, no, I mean, I love songs. Like I don't like writing them, but I like them once they're done. Yeah. Like I think one of my greatest joys, whenever there's a new song that just came out, I'm just so happy. Yeah. You know, but I'll tell you, probably the highlight of my career, as a musician, was the opening song. The first time we did the symphony concert at the, I don't know how many people were at that concert, but there was. And I remember being so overwhelmed because I'm looking out and here's 2,500 people and there's a symphony and the score was so delicate. It was the opening to Burning Ember, I think, and you had this pixie dust thing happening and I'm looking out and I'm seeing that person lent me a car when I needed one. That person gave me money when I needed one. That person gave me counsel when I needed. And I'm looking out and my feeling was, look what we've done. You know, like I had this overwhelming sense of what we have done, and it just felt like I was part of something really wonderful. That I was not the only one who had invested in this miraculous night. That this was just what happens when people together work for good things. Yeah, you know, you get to do that kind of stuff. That was probably my highlight of my life.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Okay, I have time for one more. Okay, so, and maybe this is top secret, but what's on the horizon? Okay, I'm not talking retirement here because you're old but too young for that. No, is there something that you really want to do that you haven't done yet? Is there any dream back there just waiting to be born?
Well, I hope I keep writing songs till my last day or two. You know, like I hope, like that to me is the most precious thing to me. Yeah. What's on the horizon right now is authoring. I'm going to sign a book deal probably tonight. I think Dave brought the contract.
Oh wow!
So
cool.
It's and so it's so I mean I won't get into all that's part of that, but a part of me feels like writing is going to be part of this. We'll see. You know, nice. But it feels daunting because I'm comfortable singing and playing. I'm not comfortable necessarily with the writing, but I think that there's something there to discover that might be a gift as well. Maybe not, but it seems kind of exciting right now.
It sounds exciting. I wish you all the best in that.
Thank you.
We do. So thank you so much for surviving all of this, for showing us a little bit of your heart and your motivations. And I think you're playing us one more song, and then Cheryl's going to do the official award presentation. Thank you, Steve.
Okay. I must say, Cheryl, that's so much kinder than sort of beginning a 20-minute slot to give a speech, so that, thank you, I appreciate that.
I'm on my way on a long, long journey, and I don't know where the road ends. I'm on my way on a long, long journey. Surprises await me just round the bend. Take my hand and walk beside me. The road is long and brief the rest. Take my hand and walk beside me. The answer to this riddle is a quest. The riddle says finding leads to losing. Losing lets you find. Living leads to dying, but life leaves death behind. Losing leads to finding, and that's all that I can say. No one will find life any other way. Take my hand and walk beside me. The road is long and brief the rest. Take my hand and walk beside me. The answer to this riddle is a quest. The riddle says finding leads to losing. Losing lets you find. Living leads to dying, but life leaves death behind. Losing leads to finding, and that's all that I can say. No one will find life any other way. No one will find life any other way.
Thank you. I should say, just after saying how much I love songwriting, I didn't write that one. That was Ken Medema wrote that one. That's a beautiful song. Yeah.
What a blessing this has been. Thank you, Steve. And now it is with great joy that I award you with the CMU PAX Award for a lifetime ongoing of songwriting and of service, leadership, and reconciliation in church and society. Thank you so much. This award comes with a gift, an honorarium that goes to some organization that carries the heart of the recipient. And so Steve has chosen Share the Gifts, Honor the Treaties. And so I now invite the leader of that organization, Elaine Bishop, who's also the leader of the Quaker Church in this country, to come to the stage and receive this honorarium.